Good morning, good morning. It is another beautiful sunny day here in Carlow. It is a Wednesday and it is, I think, the 22nd of April. It is the 22nd of April. And today I am walking the dog in my high vis. And today I am going to be talking about bearing false witness, which for those of you in the who have been went through the education system, no doubt would know one of the 10 commandments, the foundation of most Semitic religions, including Christianity. And the reason I want to talk to you about that is basically today I woke up to see an article in one of the national papers from Patsy McGarry talking about how Hildegard Naughton will she be the minister to finally kick forward the divestment process and so on. And the article is well worth the read, just to get a pattered, I don't know, a history anyway, of the how the state has tried to divest schools from Catholic patronage in the main to multi-denominational providers, and it's worth reading that because it's just very interesting for those of you who don't know why it's been so slow. But in the middle of the article is a quote about the current survey that was where the partial results, and I have to emphasize the partial results of the survey, were released by the Department of Education a few weeks ago and are slowly but surely being cemented into the public ether as the results of the survey, not the partial results of the survey, that 40% of parents who already send their children to denominational schools would like those schools to become multi-denominational. That's parents who already send their children. So they're already in the club. They do not want their club to be that club. They want it to be a different club. And I've written an article on my Substack already last night where I talk about how that 40% figure is the bare minimum that percentage could really be, and how it's another manipulation of statistics. And this is where the bearing false witness comes in. The quote came in the article actually not from Patsy McGarry, but from Seamus Mulcroney, who is the head of the CPSMA. And he is the person who, when those stats came out with this amazingly, I don't know how he sleeps at night by doing this sort of thing, but an amazing thing where he basically took the statistic of the 40% of parents in denominational schools who want their school to be multi-denominational and claimed that actually it's not really 40%, it's only 16%, because 40% of people only filled out the survey, thus doing the statistical magic of saying that, of implying and inferring and deciding that the 60% would have voted for denominational schools, just making that leap, a leap of faith, maybe we could say. It's a ridiculous thing to do, but he therefore says that 40% of 40% is 16%, so only 16% of parents actually want their school to be multi-denominational, and therefore 84% or whatever it is don't. You know, it's so ridiculous. Yet I have heard in the last week not only this newspaper article basically quoting him as if it's a fact, but on News Talk earlier this week, Ciara Kelly stating that only 16% of parents want change. It's an awful thing, because, and this are bearing false witness and sin by omission, to add further crimes to Mulcroney's sheet, come in, because number one, if we were to use the same logic as Mulcroney has done in terms of the number of people, if we do the 40% to 40%, well, we couldn't do 60% to 40%, as someone did, which would say that only 24% of people want denominational education, which is a ridiculous thing to say. We know it's ridiculous, but somehow, people are buying into this, I guess, manipulation of statistics, and saying that 16% of people want multi-denominational schools. It's awful. And also, on top of that, they're also, and I don't know why, I just don't know why this is the case. What they're doing is they're saying it's only 40% of all parents. So they're, again, this is just partial information. They have not included a significant number of parents. That's preschool parents and parents who already send their kids to multi-denominational schools in these results, in these partial results. So therefore, we have this, I suppose, sin by omission there as well. And it really annoys me. It annoys me so much because I actually don't know who this is for. I mean, on one hand, we're hearing the likes of, and he quotes it, he says, the Catholic Church aren't standing in the way of divestments, and they're very happy for schools to be divested. For sure, they're happy to be divested. But then, on the other hand, he's doing his very best, and they and he and others are doing their very best to minimise the demand, to try and minimise the results of the demand. So what are they doing, really? I find this really odd, and I don't really understand why they're doing it, because it doesn't do Catholics any good either. I mean, genuine Catholics that we speak to and that we know are really annoyed that their Catholic school is not even Catholic anymore. It's nominally Catholic. It's Catholic in name only. And I listen to Catholic education podcasts, and the Catholic guests, the devout Catholic guests on them are lamenting the fact that their Catholic schools are only Catholic in name. And yet, in the same breath, when they're writing their newspaper articles and so on, they're trying to minimise the demand for people who would prefer a different option. And there's a paradox there. There's a sin by omission. There's bearing false witness. And it's all very confusing. And I feel that there needs to be way, way more honesty, to be fairly blunt in this conversation. And instead of what's going on, I think it's really disappointing. And as I say, I don't have a platform like these people. I know, and they can get away with just saying things, and they're just not even. There's no investigation. There's no kind of questioning about it. And I really feel strongly about this. That we need to call out when people in power are saying things and manipulating things to suit an agenda, even though I don't know what their agenda is, because it's not doing them any good. Anyway, there's a lot of garbled thoughts, but when you hear this 16%, just remember that's not true. And when we look at the 40%, remember that's 40% of parents who already send their kids to denominational schools. It's a massive, it's a big thing. And even then, when you look at the 40%, it's also data that has been taken from a flawed sort of survey model. And you can read my Substack on that. And I'm not quite sure why it all is. What is the aim of all this? That's really where I'm kind of going with this today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on why do you think, number one, we know there's a demand for much less control of the church in society and in schools, and yet when we have the evidence to do it, we're trying to minimise it. Why, on one hand, do we not want denominational schools, but on the other hand, we want to do everything we can to keep them? Just your thoughts for today.